Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ashad, and we are here in the preliminary debates round of the Pioneers 27 conference to question the next 50 years. I will be adjudicating this debate session along with my assistant MC, Soyoung Choi. Also on the adjudicating panel, we have very esteemed Professor Soyoung Kim and esteemed Professor Byung-Han Shah, Byung-Ha Sen. We will be discussing among ourselves would be global environmental change and innovative ways to address various issues rising due to this adverse environmental change. In today's first debate session, we have three very capable teams, namely Pioneer, Greedy Greens, and Just in Time. So without further ado, I'd like to open the presentation session today with Team Pioneer.
We present these to you in the form of a website, which can also be used as a source of information on innovation and policy, publicly available for the people of Greenland.
Pioneer developed a set of sustainable goals. Firstly, to improve quality of life for the people of Greenland through food security, health, and welfare. And secondly, to reduce poverty by stimulating local economies, upskilling workers, diversifying assets, and investing in capital for future growth.
Thirdly, we wanted to increase renewable energy sources while still taking into account the above goals. And finally, we wanted to ensure that all these projects would remain committed to sustainable development. Ultimately, we wanted to include the diverse communities of Greenland in our policies and innovations, and in doing so, facilitate collaboration between the government and its citizens. Our first project is a simple yet effective way to engage rural communities who have taken the majority of the impact of climate change. Following on from this, our second innovation is an offshore wind power system.
Of the three projects from our action series, wave power is the most ambitious and likely the most costly.
So we have developed a global emissions trading scheme that would be instigated as an international agreement.
Okay, thank you very much for preparing a wonderful presentation. And I would like to move on to our next team presenting here, which is Greedy Greens.
Now let me present you the Greedy Greens policy first. Greedy Greens policy, we have three main goals: make a clean, sustainable environment by reducing emissions, promote economic growth, and assure citizens' happiness. Our first policy is carbon emission trading system, ETS. Our second policy is differentiation of tax using ESG score. One of the core problems we have to solve is to reduce the greenhouse gas emitted by cars. We seek to reduce emissions by cars by only allowing cars that show certain energy efficiency measured by kilometer per liter to be on the market. Our fourth policy is trash bank and volume-based garbage system. Policy number 5 targets the fashion industry. In policy number 6, we suggest the future of food and farming. Seventh policy is about raw material and metal industry. Policy number 8 suggests compulsory education for all. In policy number 9, we focus on energy efficiency in two perspectives. Our last policy is about popularizing VR capsules, which is the part of our innovative ideas.
And I will introduce the main concepts of our three innovative ideas. The first idea is a virtual reality capsule that can promote virtual economic activities. The second idea is the green dome for relieving greenhouse gas emissions. The last idea is the app called CoTrack, which supports eco-friendly companies.
Thank you very much for presenting your wonderful ideas. And I would like to move on to our last team for presentation today, which is Just in Time.
So we'll be focusing on the balance between environmental impact as well as economical growth. And so our policies are also aimed at addressing social unrest as well as encouraging the taking up of this new policy. So lastly is diplomacy, where we'll try to maintain the international presence, because we know that not every country will accept what Greenland proposes on the international scale. So to move on to our short-term goals and policies, we call this Greenland's Green Leap Forward. So firstly, we'll be targeting education to show that the benefits of addressing pollution will include a better, more efficient economy that benefits both citizens and nations. This also helps to address any fears that they may have. So next will be training, where we provide prospective employees the training they need to upskill and to find suitable jobs, especially in the new industries that we are going to work towards. As for international direction, and specifically the Daejeon Protocol, we hope to convince stakeholders that Greenland is indeed addressing all these issues that we are faced and trying to reach the sanctions that they have provided. So we are also trying to show that because we're taking the initiative to step forward, there is no need for extreme measures as well. Lastly, for food security, we hope to increase food imports and stockpiles, especially in the event of sudden crop decrease, as well as possible famines in the future.
Our text will be relooked to cover two areas. Firstly, economic division from the wealthier to the poorer in order to increase social mobility, and excise taxes in order to address possible polluters such as diesel vehicles as well as carbon emitting products.
Now we would send you into breakout rooms for a period of 10 minutes, which is a break session, and then we will come back here for the question and answer session. Okay, we are going to begin the question answer session. In your solution that you proposed, you talked about global emissions trading scheme, and which was not something unique to the solutions presented in all the three teams. My question here at this point is it an alternative to Daejeon protocol? What will be the Greenland's target carbon dioxide emission? Because that seems to be one of the key critical issues that have been highlighted in the scenario.
So I think that we haven't actually thought about the exact quantity of emissions that we would want to aim for. That's probably something that, because a protocol like that, which is a huge international agreement, would obviously be quite hard to pass through the governments of other countries. And I think it would end up being a global decision on like the suitable amount of emissions per unit. And I think that it would end up being like a global target that's decided first. And then after the global target is decided, you then work out the distributions after that. So we hadn't worked out an exact quantity that Greenland would particularly aim for, but I think that's something that would come out of the process of initiating that international agreement.
Okay, my second question to Greedy Green, the team Greedy Green here is, can you exemplify carbon dioxide capturing plants or domes that you proposed in your one of your innovative ideas?
Oh, okay, so the carbon capture technology itself is already being deployed in multiple fossil fuel using factories worldwide. For instance, in Norway, the Carbon Dioxide Technology Center, which is acronym of TCN, at Mongstad, began construction in 2009, and they include two capture technology plants, both capturing the flue gas from two sources. And Norway also envisions to build $3 billion carbon dioxide capture project called Longship, and with such efforts worldwide, we believe that sufficient technology for Greenland can be developed by 2051.
There's a radical solution here that you guys presented, saw in your presentation and also in your detailed solution, was importing food to cater for the food prices and stockpiling it. So my question is, with the current environmental solution and lapse in the livestock yield across the globe and particularly in Greenland, isn't importing food an expensive option for the government? Globally, the food prices will be high. So is it a sustainable proposal? How long can the economy of Greenland bear importing foods?
Okay, so with regards to that, that's why we actually put stockpiling and importing of foods as a short-term measure. So it's not meant to be over time we'll just keep importing and importing, but it's just that it's in case of any emergencies. So between 3 to 5 years we'll still be importing foods. And so during this time, while we are still importing and stockpiling the foods, we are also exploring the different alternative farming methods as well as cell cultured meats and foods. So the stockpiling is just basically to ensure that there's enough food while our new technology is still being developed and taught to our citizens. So after this new technology is up and running, we'll no longer be stockpiling the foods anymore. So we do not foresee it to be a huge economical impact on Greenland's budget.
All right, thank you for your answer. And there is a common question to all the teams from Professor Soyoung Kim.
Thank you for all the wonderful presentations. And I guess all of the teams have looked at the data provided by the preparation team. And my question is related to the cost implications of your technological solutions, just because as you can see in the economy sheet of the data on Greenland, this country per capita GDP was only $45 when in 1970 compared to almost 3,500 for OECD. And then by the year of 2015, 2050, it becomes 28,000, but OECD average is 97,000. So still it's only about 30% of the average. And also the government budget devoted to energy is only 6% even in 2015. 2050. So the implication is you cannot actually spread out all these options, so that you have to actually prioritize all these technological ideas. So my question to each team is, if you face that sort of a budget constraint, and of course all kinds of oppositions from, say, environmental groups and also large corporations. So which technology seems to be actually the best if you have to choose?
So in response to the possible issue of budgetary restraints, we consider a few different factors in this consideration during our planning. Firstly, when we're looking at the data, we notice that the information being shown is actually GDP per capita, which may not be an accurate representation of the net GDP of the country. So we concluded that it may not be an accurate representation of the actual budget that the Greenland as a whole has.
So our team's ideology was that we cannot really sacrifice either economic growth or environment. So in our policies, we had some of the policies to actually gain some money so that we can use for other solutions as well. Also, by using volume-based garbage system, the government received tax on the volume of disposed garbage, and by the energy efficiency policy, we can lower the overall energy prices eventually.
We did create our policies to align with the economic goals of Greenland. And so when we developed these policies, we looked at the ways of minimizing costs and staying sustainable, but also creating an inclusive policy that would include rural communities, shoreline communities, and even researchers. So to take into account all of the costs of this, we did actually suggest that budget allocations be reallocated to more productive areas. As you can see, we saw that social policy accounted for about 36% of the budget. If we take a portion of that and transfer it to, say, education, infrastructure, and energy, we can properly utilize these funds in investing more into these areas, especially education, where tertiary education can open up more job opportunities in areas that are more needed in Greenland.
Now I would like to leave the stage open for the participating teams to give their concluding speeches.
Greenland will undergo a tragic sort of international confrontation. And this is not something that we want. And if you look at our policies and our slide deck, you would see that from the very get-go, our short-term plan was to enter the international stage and lead this discussion and renegotiate and finance short-term borrowing. These were all in our roadmap that we hope to achieve, because we understand that the Daejeon Protocol, the first part at least, is to renegotiate this on the front of communication, to sit down on this table of brotherhood and fight against the common enemy, climate change. That's why we declare war on climate change at the very first step we did. Now, we understand that our policies are not perfect, and we understand that they have their own flaws, but that is why we have implemented multiple policies that complement one another and address the limitations of each other perfectly. It's impossible to come up with a 100% perfect policy, and we hope that by combining the different solutions that we have seen today as well, Greenland will not be facing that bad of an issue if we combine all of it.
Finally, our code track is a platform that can increase the environment sensitivity of users and companies. which rewards both participants. Each company is rated based on their ESG score, and users can vote for companies that seem to successfully achieve green growth, and also helps the company to be more eco-friendly. Greenland, a country once green, has suffered environmentally for rapid economic growth. We show that through our policies and solutions that environment does not have to be sacrificed for economic growth. Like our slogan, we really want to make Greenland green again. Thank you.
Overall, to achieve the outcome of sustainable energy and harmonious living with nature, Pioneer seeks to draw sponsorship from ethical investment funds established both nationally and internationally, in addition to the financial support we'll get from the government. By partnerships with international research communities, trustworthy implementation companies, and local communities of labor forces, we prioritize the development of environmental, social, and corporate governance, or ESGs, factors in our actions, while also returning investor ends of the fund's expandable profits. This plan will address the uneven playing field between OECD countries and developing nations. In hopes where the world for all nations are in collaboration than competition, we can create a more livable planet.
To end today's session, I would like to extend my thanks to all the participants for actively engaging with each other in a constructive debate, or rather a discussion, and the professors who asked really valuable questions to the students and participants, and to everybody who was involved in organizing this session.